What's up everyone, I'm Wasaam and you are watching the second episode of Beyond the Billboard by The 4As. Now in this series, we'll be talking to individuals in the Sri Lankan advertising industry, people who make a dent in our industry. We'll be talking about their experiences, expertise, thoughts about the industry and also some stuff which would hopefully be fun. Now, in today's episode, we have somebody who specializes in strategy. And if you've been paying attention to some of the things we've been posting before the episode, the trailers, the posts, you would probably know who this individual is. But before I introduce this person to you, I want to put a quick shout out to our sponsors. Our episode sponsor for this episode is Nations Trust Bank. Thank you, Nations Trust Bank, for supporting the local advertising industry. Our production partner, who is Hype Media, they do covert marketing, influencer management, any form of video production, be it film or animation. They also specialize in TikTok videos, and this entire production of this series is thanks to Hype Media. Our creative partner is Loops Integrated, and our location partner where we're shooting today is Triad. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our guest, we have Shehan Samarasinha, who is a director and chief strategy officer at Triad. What's up, Shehan?
What's up, Adam?
How's it going?
So much. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right.
Good to be here.
Before I get into anything about you, there's something that I've been a little confused about, which I want to ask you. What's this whole scene about API and Triad? Okay, what's the scene?
So now Triad, if you look at, is around 3 decades old. I've been at Triad now for the last 12 years. When I joined Triad also, this was a mystery to me. What does
so you
API
mean back then also you had this API thing, is it?
Yes,
oh, okay.
It's been there since Triad began, to my knowledge. So Triad itself was founded by 3 people, and then thereafter it grew into what it is today. So in essence, API means we, they are for each other. So it is a philosophy that we believe transcends departments, working in silos, and going beyond your job role, job scope to help someone else. Yes, be it work and outside of work itself.
Right.
So when it comes to, it's a very interesting statistic. Again, extreme part of API also. I think we have the most number of happily wedded couples.
My goodness, including yourself, no? I was told
but
you
she
had,
wasn't at Triad. She wasn't at Triad.
But at the same time, I was told you had only one crush, one love.
Yes,
and you managed to, somehow marry her also, right?
She wasn't at Triad though.
Okay.
But I think it's a startling statistic, and every year we keep seeing this propping up from the various
lot
corners.
of love affairs inside the office. Not frowned upon, all good.
Yeah, all good,
Right.
all good.
So taking it in the literal form. My goodness.
So it has happened. That's one extreme of it. The other part to it is that we believe in holding each other's back if there is a difficult time in terms of work or stress, or maybe it even be family. So I think that's where the sort of personal relationships and professional relationships sort of all come together. And we call it API family.
Very good, very good. This, I mean, what makes you so great that, you've been called for these local and international judging panels and, being called to, speak at all these different events and all that.
I of course think I'm just a nobody trying to be somebody.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, just trying to do something for this industry, which actually when I went to Cannes in 2015, I realized a very startling statistic. And that
Everything seems to be statistics with you. Okay, go on.
Well, yes and no also. But the statistic that that I found out in Cannes was that when it comes to Cannes jury, to be a jury member, your country should have won a gold. And that was one startling stat. The other thing was that Sri Lanka hadn't won anything, I think above maybe a bronze. I'm not sure, but we haven't gotten that yet. So to think of all the legends in this industry that we look up to, that we grew up idolizing, and know that they won't be able to represent our country, or we won't have a representation in the Cannes jury, which is the biggest of the biggest, the Emmy Awards or the big award show that's there in this advertising industry, made me want to think I want to do something to get this country there.
Interesting.
At least be a part of it, if not directly involved, at least help somebody. And that's where looking at judging, and anytime I look at a judging opportunity, post that, I'm always looking at knowledge sharing, trying to share it
But
with
why
somebody.
you? What have you done that is so great?
I haven't. That's why I think
Don't lie, come on.
no, the thing is, I am somebody who has a huge fire, a huge passion. So I think anyone else can take up this this sort of this role or this hunt, if you will.
I just think you're just being humble, Shehan.
No, I'm
because-
just being honest.
Come on, because I mean, people obviously see that you have done great work in your own field, which is strategy, to want you there, right?
Well, Machang, to be honest with you, I didn't start as a strategist. I started in servicing. And I've been in servicing, if you take my career of 12 years, of which 50% of my time has been in servicing. When I started in strategy itself, to be very honest, it took around 1.5 years to 2 years for me to really understand what strategy is.
A lot of people still don't understand it.
And I still don't. I'm also still learning. I remember doing a couple of presentations in my role as a strategist, and doing those presentations, always having the client. Now we do a strategy presentation, then go into creatives. The end of the presentation, the client will always say, "Can we go back to the idea?" And this kept recurring over and over again. I was thinking to myself, why is it that they don't want to go back to the strategy?
Strategy, correct.
And then I realized there's something wrong
It's
in what
also
I'm
because
doing.
people don't understand the importance of strategy, right?
Well, it's like this. If we always say it's them and not me, there will be no growth for me.
Absolutely.
So I decided to say it's me, and ended up talking to our CEO. And I actually had a very frank conversation saying that you put me into a role of strategy. You're paying me the salary of a strategist, yet no client seems to be wanting strategy. And then only I said, I want to learn what strategy is. And I ended up getting a couple of opportunities to go to Spikes, the Effectiveness Academy, reading books, and then only little by little I understood what this is. So it's been a learning curve.
Right. Also, I mean, there's one thing, picking from one thing that you said earlier, you were talking about idealizing the greats in our industry. Can you tell me 2 people that you have idealized who's not from Triad?
Yeah, I would have to say definitely Subhash is one of those people.
Okay.
And Rushi Sharma would be another. So Subhash was someone who didn't even start in creative, right? And then look at where he got to. When I wasn't even in strategy, he would be one of those people I looked to and the work that he was doing. Right? And even Ruchi Sharma, coming from India, coming here to Sri Lanka, and what she was able to do. So those 2 people for me are very strong idols in this industry, which I feel, having this big stage of why can't they go? Why can't they go? And we should push ourselves to get there.
And true, I mean, interacting with you in the past when we've had like our 4A sessions and even certain meetings which you were part of, I think there's something that you keep stressing on is how do we send our people to a global level, right?
Exactly.
So I think that
Exactly.
seems to be a passion of yours,
Yes.
right? And one good quality I like about that is the fact that you don't even care if it's somebody from your agency. You want someone from Sri Lanka being represented abroad.
Exactly, yes.
Right.
So whatever, that's what post-jury, if there is any knowledge sharing, it's not just done for Triad. There are other agencies also have gone and done knowledge sharing sessions. So it's something that you want to give back to the industry.
Interesting. Actually, I mean, we'll come back to more insights and your perspective towards industry when we get to the second segment. But one thing I want to ask you is, what is strategy in advertising? Okay, what is strategy in advertising and why do we need it?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm right, but who is? That quote was actually more than that quote. It's a person who said that quote that matters. It's David Droga who said it. I'm not sure if I'm right, but who is. So I'd like to start with that and just say that what I'm sharing here is my point of view. It may be right, it may be wrong, but in this industry, who's to say what is right and what is wrong, right? So my point of view when it comes to strategy is when you look at creativity in advertising, creativity is about looking at a world of what can be done, looking at the different opportunities that are there. Strategy is what should be done then in that. So it's finding that perfect direction that should be done at this particular point in time, within this cultural context, for that brand, and focusing on that direction. So that's how I see that.
So why do we need it in advertising?
See, if you look at communication today, we've heard this statistic that 7,000, 10,000 ads we are exposed to on a daily basis. 99%
6
of
to
them.
10,000 ads per day, and apparently only 4% of
Exactly.
people, according to research, trust ads, right?
Exactly. Right. So if you focus only on creativity itself, you tend to it may be that you fall into that 4%, but you could fall into that 4% that doesn't drive business. At the end of the day, we are in the business of building brands, building community as well. But without proper strategic thinking, you might fall into the other side of that 9,000 or 99% of communication that doesn't get noticed. But the other negative is to fall into the communication that does get noticed but does not drive business. So what's the point in that, right? Even if you look at the award shows of today, they are driving not just creative, they are looking at business impact. So gone are the days where you talk about scams, right? If you are doing a scam and winning an award, it's driving results. I mean, to do a scam and win an award is not possible today.
And also, I think a lot of people have forgotten about scams now because we've not had a, creative awards in quite a long time, right?
Yes, fair enough.
Everyone's focusing on effectiveness.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, but even in the creative award shows also, business impact has become a priority now. That's something that's driving the future of our industry.
Right, I want to ask you something. Let's just move from strategy for a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, in your experience, right, you deal with a lot of clients as well, right? What has been your most annoying or frustrating experience that you've had with a client?
Yeah.
One of those things where you come back to office and like properly and bitch about them. Can you tell me something?
Yeah. I think the most frustrating experience was the one where you present a strategy to a client, have them reject it, but you believe in the strategy so well that you'll end up going and...
I need something juicy, Shehan, right? I want a particular experience that happened.
Okay, right.
A story, come
Right,
on.
okay.
Strategist, I mean, I'm sure you're also, you're
Right,
a storyteller, right?
Sure.
Come on.
So we had this presentation with the client. I don't want to name the client. But
okay.
We had the presentation with the client, and during the presentation, it wasn't a pitch. Since it wasn't a pitch, we decided to have a presentation where we present to them strategy and them have a proper discussion on this. So during what I thought was a discussion, since it was virtual, it wasn't physical at the time. This was during COVID. We didn't get to see their faces. We only got to hear their voices.
Right.
I didn't know that I'm antagonizing them more and more. I thought I'm having a very healthy debate. So I am presenting something, and after the presentation, they had a couple of thoughts to which I ended up giving a response as to why this was the better way of doing it. And this debate went on to a point where now I am also saying, this is just my 2 cents, we feel this is better.
They must have been thinking of bloody Pandit, no?
until they actually said it. And they ended up saying it in other words, saying that if you are not willing to listen to us, we can find another agency.
Wow.
So I was then flabbergasted at that point. I was thinking,
So
where did I go wrong?
That's our job, to listen and shut up and wait for everything the client says.
Well, it was only a one-off instance that happened. But then I was thinking to myself, boy, did I read this client wrong? This was just tones, right? You didn't get to see their facial expressions.
But from what you're saying, it seems to have been frustrating to them versus you.
So imagine me at that point thinking I'm having a very healthy conversation, and then after that having that belly up, and now I present that as a case study of what good strategy is.
And if I ask you, okay, that's a frustrating experience, what about embarrassing? Is there anything embarrassing that has happened to you?
I think this was maybe a couple of months after joining Triad.
I remember
one of those experiences. So this was, you want client experiences, no? Right, okay. So this client experience was a few months after joining Triad. The client was here at office. It must be around 2-3 in the morning. We are releasing artwork for a major campaign that's launching. It came to a point where...
2-3 in the morning, not a very good work culture.
Exactly.
We shouldn't be working at 2-3 in the morning.
So this is just a couple of months, right?
Okay.
I've joined the agency also and I'm working. Creative, everyone's there, so the office is packed with all the account team and the creative team.
Must have had a bit of apiculture there also, not?
There
In the morning.
that was also happening. And I ended up also giving a client a bit of the apiculture by saying, client, go away, come again another day. So this was one of the, I didn't know at the time. I was speaking to the general manager.
You said that to a GM. You can't mention who the client is. Huh?
I can mention the name.
You can mention to see.
Indika Amarasuriya.
From?
Mobitel.
My goodness. How does he feel about you now? Any idea?
He talks about it laughingly now.
Okay, yeah. So it all good, ne?
So he keeps on saying when he sees me, client, go away.
Yeah. And how about fights? Have you been through many fights in the industry with people in office or with clients?
Many.
Many.
Most of the fights are within office.
Biggest fights.
Biggest
Have you
fights.
thrown a tantrum, like thrown a chair, book?
No, nothing physical. Nothing physical.
Then?
Nothing physical.
Passive aggression.
Yes,
Or just
because
shouting?
the physical part happens when I go to the gym. Then you picture the person and then you have the punching bag.
Anything you've done, like properly hurt someone's feelings?
Nothing. Not feelings. Yes. So one thing again, this was just after joining. This is again, all this sort of aggression that came from me happened a couple of months after joining, where same client with Mobitel, we are waiting day in, day out. At least 3 or 4 days a week, we would finish work by 10:30, 11 in the night and go. And this creative director, every day, we finish off work at that time simply because we know next day in the morning there are 4 or 5 briefs waiting in our email to start. So you need to finish before you can start the next day. So I kept on asking this creative director, can you take this brief? Can you take this brief? And constantly the thing was, I'm loaded. But then me being the NA that I am, I kept on pursuing and kept on looking at what time this person is leaving. So this person would leave fairly early. Until one day, I had it. I had enough of briefs also. And I ended up going to this creative director one last time saying, can you take this job? He or she ended up saying that she is busy.
He or she.
He or she. He or she ended up saying busy, can't take it. And then I ended up saying, maybe if you don't go early, you can take it.
Oh, you think these creative directors are drama queens?
Some are, but I wouldn't blame them for the way I behaved.
Okay. But in general, you think they're drama queens?
Well, in this organization, we have ended up putting a board also, people have memorized it. Kalawa eliya tiyala enna kiyala athulta.
Nice. Something I feel like...
Because they are in the early office that now it's been memorized, it's not there.
Yeah, well, a lot of agencies should have that, no? But there's something I must tell you, which I always believe, right? Because even in our agency, I've always told people, if you're hiring people, more than how great they are with their work, people come first.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, people first, work second.
100%.
Yeah?
100%.
Agree with that?
Agreed.
Okay. Right, and just to conclude this first segment of this episode, I want to also ask you in terms of maybe 1 or 2 of your favorite campaigns, but I'd like to hear it in a strategic perspective.
Right. So one campaign that I really like, something that was done a couple of years ago, it actually won in Cannes a goal for long-term strategy. And this was for the Canadian Down Syndrome Foundation. So there is a test that pregnant moms can do, it's there in Sri Lanka also, where you can detect whether your child is going to be born with Downs or not. So as a result, the abortion rate when they find out that they're going to have a Downs child skyrocketed. Less and less children were born with Downs, and they identified that if this continues to happen, future funding, future research that's done for Down syndrome is going to become less and less. Right? So what they decided to do was actually put humanity in the endangered list. So they renamed Down syndrome and got it legislated also in Canada as an endangered syndrome. So the campaign launched like that, and that was part of one approach. This was a long-term strategy over 5 years. Then they also identified that the first bringer of this news when you're having a Down syndrome is the doctor, who more often than not comes with I'm sorry. So they ended up making sorry the worst word you could possibly use, and did a campaign for doctors itself.
So just stop there. Would you consider that an observation, an insight, or a strategy?
within the overall campaign that they ended up doing, I would think that looking at endangered, putting Down syndrome in the endangered species list is a huge strategy.
That's the strategic element of it, right?
Because
Okay.
what they ended up bringing in was the fact that if less and less Downs is born, less and less research funding will be given for them.
Right.
So if we don't bring out this message, and they ended up taking different approaches.
Right.
Because when parents started searching online, can my Down's child live? How long can they live for? Can they get married? Can they find employment? Can they have children? They ended up having an entire campaign launch called Down Syndrome Answers, where Down syndrome people ended up answering these questions. So the whole campaign was to give Down syndrome a chance to live again, right? Give people with Down syndrome the chance to live. So that is a long-term strategy.
Right.
That is really trying to address the problem of you making a decision, sometimes a very selfish decision, to terminate when you can end up having a
Right.
child who can live a full
So
life.
that's one of my favorite campaigns.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there maybe a case study of this online?
Yes,
There is.
absolutely. Yeah, it's
so
called
may-
endangered syndrome.
Maybe if you can send us a link, what we
Yeah.
can also try to do is put that link on the description so that you can also maybe check the campaign out yourself and see what Shehan is talking about.
Yeah, sure.
So, Shehan, on that note, we're going to take a quick break
Sure.
and a message from our sponsors. We'll be right back with some more stuff.
It's pretty amazing out there. The world is full of more possibilities than there's ever been. And the more you live forward, the more you need someone standing behind you. American Express has had your back for over 160 years.
Don't leave home without them.
Being there for moments big and small. This is about doing, enabling, partnering, so that you can get the most out of every moment, in life and in business, no matter whether it's your smallest need or biggest ambition. Because the more you take on the world, the more you need someone who's got your back. So whatever you do, wherever you go, don't take on the world without it. Don't fill up without it. Don't pay your vendors without it. Don't order a latte without it. Don't be your own boss without it. The powerful backing of American Express. Don't do business without it. Don't live life without it.
Welcome back to the second segment of this episode. You are watching Beyond the Billboard with me, Wasaam, and of course our guest who is into strategy, the man who likes his statistics, Shehan. All right, Shehan. Now, sometimes we see instances where agencies and people in agencies, right, are treated as vendors and not partners, right? Is that wrong? And if so, why should clients respect the advertising agency?
I'd say it's value given, value received. No? At the end of the day, if you have an agency that's just paying lip service to what the client wants, over time the client will only see that side to the agency.
Yeah, or else they'll call you a pandit, no?
Yeah.
Like they did to you.
That was an outlier. That was an outlier. But I think most clients, and this is also a thing that we have within the industry, right? We like to always point the finger at the client and say they didn't understand the idea, they don't get us. When in reality, if we were to be the client, I can be fairly certain that
would be the same.
it would be the same thing. If the roles were switched and we were to get that kind of work, we'll end up looking at it. There's certain times where we don't pay the client enough respect. You know, the work that is done, just because it's a presentation, is done in such a mediocre way, right? You tend to cut corners just because you think you have a relationship with the client. And even I remember hearing a talk where when this person spoke about the relationship they have with the client, and when they present, they understand that the client doesn't give a shit about the idea. The client cares about what the idea can do for their business, right? How many times do we end up presenting storyboards where our idea is there, product frame, nothing. Just the logos there, that's it. I mean, the client cares about how we're going to sell that. You give them that respect, show them we care about selling your product. This is what we're going to do, right? Then only they start respecting
But
you.
respect also goes both ways. No?
Absolutely.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
even if you do great work, the client doesn't sometimes respect you.
See, I think
Sometimes.
yes. So it's like this, right? If you, my point of view is this: if you are bringing in value to a client, and the client sees that value, immediately they will end up seeing what they can't get internally themselves, right? If you are just going to be another extension of their own thoughts, that's not good enough, right? Good is never good enough in this industry, especially when you are having a client who comes with their own point of view. Right? It's important first to understand it, appreciate it, empathize with it, but also bring in our own point of view, which when the client understands the point, the place we are coming from, because we are coming from the customer side. They are coming from the business side. They are coming with a business problem. We are looking at what is going to solve their business problem by making sure the client, the customer buys into that. Right? So when we bring in that flavor, that point of view, I feel that any client will understand.
Okay, so
that.
let's put it in to the perspective of you. Will you say you? I mean, I'm sure there are many times where you've gone to a client where you think that you know what you're doing, and you're adding a lot of value, right? But at the same time, have you felt by doing all of this, my client still treats me like a vendor, not a partner?
Yes.
Have you felt that?
Yes.
Okay.
I have felt that. Yeah.
So then why is that?
See, what I tend to think at that time is, okay, if it is like this now, when you're saying this also, I remember a very specific relationship, a relationship that actually won us many awards, couple of FE awards also and global awards. Yet today the client treats us like a vendor. That has happened, when I look at it, it's less to do with the work we do and more to do with the sort of way in which we work, in the sense that the client has a certain budget restriction. We end up charging at a certain rate, right? So when it comes to those kind of levels, even a client can only do so much. So I don't see it more to do with the work, but to do with other external factors that is impacting the relationship.
And okay, so if there's one thing that you could tell any clients that are out there watching right now in terms of, you know, respecting agencies, right? What would that message be? I know it's a tough one, I'm putting you on the spot, but you know, you have the opportunity. I mean, sometimes you can't directly go and tell your client also because it messes up the relationship, right? But let's generalize it. And to all clients out there, what do you have to say?
See, I would end up saying that look for an agency that cares about growing your business than doing great work. Because great work is a byproduct of growing business. Right? If you have an agency that's saying this is a really cool idea, trust me, it's going to give you results. That's not going to work anymore. And that's not how any international agency works. They look first at how can I solve my business problem. The most awarded creative director in art, right, his name is Marcelo Serpa, he always talks about making the product the hero. And the awards he has won in creativity, in Cannes, is to do with keeping the product as the hero. So we try to sometimes end up doing creativity for creativity's sake, to boost our own egos, our own portfolios, without understanding that the person who's paying for our salaries is the client. So if you have an agency that does that, understands that, appreciates that and respects that, then you have a relationship.
And respect them back.
Absolutely.
Right. I want to also get into some of your thoughts on the local advertising industry, right? And you've been part of the industry for a while. I want to find out from you first what you think is wrong or could be improved in the industry, and then after that I want to know what we're doing right. So if you could first start with what you think we're doing wrong or what can be improved.
Right. So I will answer that in the form of an analogy. Today in the morning I went to my son's art exhibition. Same school I went
because of that exhibition, I mean, you tried to, you know,
move
delay this,
yes,
move
I
this
tried to
also,
move this a little bit.
and I didn't let you.
So I went for this art exhibition, which I had been part of when I was in school, same school.
Right.
Back then the art exhibition
What's the school?
was St. Thomas's.
Ah, you're a Thomian. Okay.
So the art exhibition when I was in school was drawing something on a canvas, painting it and then having it displayed. Today's art exhibition was seeing Big Ben, Burj Khalifa, Golden Gate bridges. these children have made them, and these children are in grade 3, grade 4, right? They have made these things. Two children have brought hydraulics into the bridge. When they inject water or something, the bridge is coming down, right?
Wow.
And then when they pull the injection, the bridge is coming up. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So the reason why I said that is, that reminds me of the industry gap that's there between what we are doing here and what's done overseas. So there's a big divide between the work we are doing here and the work that we see overseas. And I would say that in order for us to try and improve, I mean, what the good that we are doing in this industry is right here, what you all have started, right? There is a lot of hunger, but there isn't
What do you mean
enough.
by y'all?
4As,
Okay.
what 4As has started, right? There's a lot of hunger, and we saw that, right? On a Friday night when you had the 4As master class, you saw that entire room filled with people. Friday night starting at 7, going up until 10, 3 hours. I would say a good 70 or 80% was still there at 10 p.m. in the night when they could have gone clubbing. Shows the hunger. There needs to be someone to feed that hunger. And this is where you all have gotten it right. And you're consistently doing stuff to feed the industry from the master class.
Are we now going to what we're doing, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So in terms of the master class to the 4As advertising festival, these are the things that we are doing right in order to move the industry forward. But if you look at, there's a big gap that needs to be bridged. So that's where I think we can really improve and look at bridging the gap.
Right. So on that note, I mean, since you spoke about the 4As and stuff, you would have also heard that there's a festival that's coming up,
Yeah,
the 4As advertising festival. You know about that, right?
Of course.
What do you think about
We are waiting to compete.
Waiting?
We are waiting to compete. We immediately went through the entry kit.
My goodness.
We've already gone through the entries. We are looking at submitting immediately.
Interesting.
Yes.
So I'm as excited as you, and I
Absolutely.
personally know quite a few people who are excited as well. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, there is a 2-day festival that is coming up hopefully on the 30th and the 31st of May. We're looking at having it as a grand, global level standard rather festival where we would be having awards. We'll be bringing down international speakers. There'll be exhibitions of the shortlisted work.
Nice.
And also we're going to have a couple of parties.
Oh,
Right, because we
is
need to
news.
bring that
That
fun
is
back,
news.
right?
All
Yeah.
right, all right.
And I know you would enjoy it because I mean, I spoke to your friend, colleague, Shayne, and he said, my God, Shehan, when he's joined, Bugger didn't drink, Bugger didn't do anything. Now he's a big eater, big drinker, last to leave a party, pumps the music on a Friday, hoping to get something out of the people. So I'm sure you'll be quite interested.
Absolutely,
And for those who want to get access to the entry kit, you just need to log into www.4as.lk and you'll be able to get that entry kit. Now, on that note, right? Now, this is an argument that I have personally overheard, right, from people, where they say that let's look at it this way, right? Right now in the industry, if you take lots of these agencies, not every agency has a strategy person dedicated to strategy. There are very few agencies now have people dedicated to strategy. So the argument that I've also heard that there is a dedicated person for strategy in those agencies because the brand teams are not competent enough. And technically it's their job. What do you say to that?
100% agree. It's not just the brand teams. I would end up saying even creative needs to look beyond just that idea. Really focus on the business need, the business requirement that's there. I think that's where strategy comes into play, because where brand is supposed to empathize with not just the brand but understand the customer. Most of the time we end up having situations where we're just going and presenting stuff without really understanding what should be done. And you end up taking options. There shouldn't be an option. When you go and present to a client, it should be one thing. If they can do only one thing, why are we presenting 2, 3, 4 options? And discussions are more than often happening at, oh, I like this model, I like this color, can I make this logo bigger? Whereas the idea that's going to solve the business problem. So I think there is a big gap that's there in this industry, that we need to bridge. I don't know whether it's necessarily having a strategy department or whether it's upskilling the existing teams that are there. But certainly that competency needs to be brought in, and this is where this question about our clients respecting agencies coming in. Right? Respect needs to be earned.
Correct.
Not handed in on a platter. Right. So that's where.
Also, I mean, now since we're talking about this, and for the benefit of the brand teams that are out there, and for the benefit of the creatives that are out there, could you maybe recommend 2 or 3 good books that they can read on strategy?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we started this discussion, also something I told was that I didn't know anything about strategy, and I kept on getting into this place where the clients wouldn't even go through the strategy. Now we only present strategy. We don't present creative. So to get from there to here was a journey.
You read some books.
Exactly.
Right? So what are those books?
Those books, firstly, I would end up saying, look at Decoded by Phil Barden. Right?
Decoded by Phil Barden.
So he was actually a client, a marketeer, who went on to the agency side.
Okay. And the next book?
Next would be Positioning by Jack Trout and Al Rees.
Positioning by Jack
Trout and Al Rees.
Okay.
Third book would be looking at Advertising Effect, Adam Ferrier. How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp.
Right.
So in that order.
Yeah, I've started reading this How Brands Grow.
Yeah.
Very controversial book, no?
Well, actually, what it looks at is how modern marketing actually works, and demystifies a lot of
some of the traditional
notions.
thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, what are the key challenges that you have come across as someone in strategy?
I think anytime you are bringing strategy and creative together, buy-in is a huge challenge. Because creative is starting off a blank canvas, and they like it blank. They don't want it tainted.
Yeah, no, I mean, even when you give an insight or something with a brief, they sometimes don't even look at the insight. They're like, screw the bloody insight, they come up with their own thing.
Exactly, right. So that is one of the toughest things, but it is a process, right? It's not something like respect from a client. It's something that you earn over time. And once you bought in, and this is, I think, a way where we end up bridging the gap between creative and strategies, because strategy works with the client, gets the direction approved, and makes it that much more easier for creative. Right. Imagine a creative having to come up with 3 options, knowing only one is going, versus being told this direction has been approved by the client, can you look at a visualization for this? We don't give them taglines and tell them make stuff out of it. We give them a direction and a focus. Right. So that actually bridges that gap.
And that's how you overcome it. That's how you overcome it. All right. Okay. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break, Shehan. Right. We need to give you a small message from our sponsors, and there's some interesting trivia that is coming up in the 3rd segment. So stay tuned for that.
It's pretty amazing out there. The world is full of more possibilities than there's ever been. And the more you live forward, the more you need someone standing behind you. American Express has had your back for over 160 years.
Don't leave home without them.
Being there for moments big and small. This is about doing, enabling, partnering, so that you can get the most out of every moment, in life and in business, no matter whether it's your smallest need or biggest ambition. Because the more you take on the world, the more you need someone who's got your back. So whatever you do, wherever you go, don't take on the world without it. Don't fill up without it. Don't pay your vendors without it. Don't order a latte without it. Don't be your own boss without it. The powerful backing of American Express. Don't do business without it. Don't live life without it.
Welcome back to the 3rd segment of this episode of Beyond the Billboard. You're with me, Wasaam, and we're having a chat with my friend Shehan here from Triad, who is the Director Chief Strategy Officer. In this segment, we'll be, doing a little bit of trivia, maybe ask a few controversial questions, as well as, get some more advice out of you, right? So the first question I want to ask you actually is on sonic branding. Right? So I think some people call it sound logos, signature tunes, right? How important is something like this in strategy, and why do you think some brands don't have them?
It boils down to differentiation versus distinctiveness. We are in a day and age where differentiating at a product level is almost impossible, right? And you need to look at how your brand can stand out in this 7,000 or 8,000 commercials you're seeing a day, and that's where distinctive assets come into play. Sonic branding is one pillar that you can actually use to help.
Have you used sonic branding in your strategies?
Yes, not for every single brand, but whenever we launch a new brand, that is part of the portfolio that's added into it.
Right.
Because that's a distinctive asset, right? Signature tunes, music. That's why we can listen to a song when we were very, very young, and decades later
Still remember it, still remember it. That's a good point. On that note, let's see if you remember some of the maybe audio logos and stuff that have been done by global brands. Right? Now it's like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play the clip for you. You listen to it.
Sure.
Right? If you can recognize it, you tell me what it is. If you can't, I'll give you 3 options to choose from.
Okay.
Right? And let's see if you can get it right. Okay. So, shall we play the first one?
Feels like survival billboard.
Definitely heard that one, right?
Yes, 100%.
Do you want your 3 options?
I've heard it. Is it Nokia?
I'll give you your 3 options,
Give me the
right? So your first option is Microsoft, all right? Your second option is IBM, and your third option is Intel.
Intel.
Intel. Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Okay. Intel it is.
Woo! I get $500.
No. We don't have that much of sponsorship to give you. All right. So let's go with the second one.
Yeah.
Right? Shall we play the second one? Have you heard that one before?
Old Spice.
Oh, Old Spice? Is that your last answer? Old Spice it is. Congratulations, not
Thank
bad. Doing well. And the third and final one is
That I haven't heard.
you haven't heard? You want to play it one more time? Want me to play it one more
Yeah,
time?
sure.
Yeah. One more time. So I'll give you 3 options, right? Your first one is Fox News, right? Have you watched Fox News?
I have.
Okay.
Yes.
By the way, that guy Tucker Carlson, who
Yes.
just you know about that?
He.
Tucker Carlson, who left Fox
Yes,
News,
he
he's gone and
resigned,
done he's gone and done an interview with Putin, and a lot of people in the States are going crazy about it. Anyway, so Fox News is your first one. Your second one is MasterCard, right? And your third one is Disney.
Doesn't sound like Disney because I've heard it before. I'm taking a wild guess, so it must be Fox News.
Is that your final answer?
I'm taking a wild guess, so it has to. Why don't I
Answer
change it
is
then?
incorrect. The answer actually is MasterCard.
MasterCard.
Right.
Yeah.
On that note, if you want to get yourself a MasterCard, the best place to go and get that is Nations Trust Bank. So just make sure you visit one of their branches or give them a call to inquire, and you can get either credit or debit cards, MasterCards from Nations Trust Bank. Now, I'm just going to go back into Triad a little bit, right?
Sure.
These, the industry has heard these 3 names a lot associated with Triad, right? You have Varuni, you have Lilith, who now is into politics, and of course there's Sarva,
Yes.
right? Now my question to you, Shehan, I mean you know all these 3 people very well, right? You've associated with them very well, right? Who is your favorite person and why? I hope this question doesn't get him fired. But who is your favorite person and why? From Varuni, Dilith and Sarva.
Such a difficult question to
Or
answer.
you don't like all three of them?
Everyone is favorite for different reasons. That's the issue. How to find which one trumps all of them.
Come on, we're running out
Okay,
of time.
Varuni.
Okay.
I'll have to say Varuni.
Varuni?
Yeah.
Why Varuni?
Varuni wears her heart on her sleeve.
Okay. And
And-
Dilip and Sarva don't.
Well, I have interacted more at a professional and personal level with Varuni. So when we talk about apiculture, when
Amma
we
wage
talk
dodda.
about, huh?
Amma wage podi mama patte danada.
Amma wage, amma
Right, okay.
So she is somebody who would be brutally honest also, say what she feels, and then I know if I ever ask her a question that's what I'm going to get. That being said, Sarva also does the same thing. So
Nah. Here. You can't butter up all three. You have already said Varuni. That means it doesn't apply to the other two.
Oh, man.
Simple as that. Right? So I don't know how they're going to take, what's going to happen next.
There is
but-
this name called Divaso also, Dilith, Varuni, Sarva. So all three of them can make
අදාළ නෑ මෙතන අපි scene නෑ, right? Okay. The other question I want to ask now, Dilith associated with Triad has also got into politics.
Yeah.
Right? And there are some rumors that he might even be contesting for the next presidential election, etc. Right? Now, I'm not going to ask you about your thoughts on that because, let's not get political.
Exactly.
But the question I want to ask you is that now will you end up doing the strategy for his campaign? You can see from his
If and when the need arises.
blank face, you can see how
Yes.
uncomfortable he is with this question.
See, the truth is I have never studied politics or have been involved in politics. But if and when the need arises, I give my 2 cents. So there's
So
nothing.
that's a yes. If he comes and says, Shehan, I need a strategy for my campaign. Yes, sir.
Yes, as I would say yes to any other client.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So now I asked you that I want to speak to a few people from your organization, people who know you well,
Yeah.
right? And I actually had a very interesting conversation with Shayne, right? I'm sorry, Shayne. I know I don't have your consent to do this, but what you don't know is that I recorded the conversation I had with you, and I've taken a short clip which I'm going to play. Please don't hate me. I'm going to get Shehan to listen to it, right? And
He
then
will hate you if you publicize it.
right? Is it?
Is it going to be publicized?
Yes. So, I mean, our viewers are going to hear the clip now, right? So, I'm going to play it to you.
Okay.
There.
When he went to Anko, because he likes that food, took the menu, contact the chef in Dubai when he proposed to her, send the menu from here, what he likes, got it made there. So that's the type of thing. And then he's another person, like say for instance, now when I go out, madam, personally when I go out anywhere, I call him to ask, madam, how is the food here? And he will tell me exactly what to order in that particular place. He won't just order something that's on the menu. He'll look at what weighs more. So for him, quantity and quality. So he will even go to that detail of, okay, so are there 4 French fries in this or are there 6 French fries in the other one? Very detailed. He's not shy in asking the waiter or the chef.
What is this, Majang? Come on, right? Why are you going and arguing with waiters about the quantity of French fries?
I do not argue. I only ask.
Only ask.
And not French fries. Yeah, steak.
Steak,
I
right.
don't care about the fries. So this happened with Sugi. when I was with Sugi and Shayne, we were looking at ordering from a restaurant and then there was steak. Both of them was the same price, but one was 50 grams more. So I was thinking, why on earth am I paying for the one?
So, I
with
mean,
less?
the takeout for me from that, whatever he said, was the fact that you're obsessed with detail. Very detail oriented. And I'm not just taking it from this clip, from the extended conversation that I had with him. So my question to you is, you need to be someone who's that much into detail to be in strategy.
Yes, I would say so. Because like I told you, my definition of strategy is what should be done. So if you don't go into the granular detail, how are you going to find that one thing from 5 or 10 things that are there? I never thought about my food obsession as being really detailed into stuff, but
You apparently said even at the end of a bloody wedding, right, while everyone is packing up, you're still in a corner eating.
yeah, that's because I've been drinking the whole time and I'm starving at that
Right,
point.
sure. Okay, what is the personal process that you follow in your strategic planning process?
This is actually a culmination of all the books
Please
I've read.
understand that the reason I'm asking you this question also is so that, people can learn something out of this, right?
Sure, yeah. So this is a sort of a custom thing that I end up using, and it changes from brief to brief. It's not one template that applies to everything, but where I start from is firstly, client comes with business problems. I try to understand what's the human problem behind the business problem that we can solve in order to achieve his business problem. So I really try to understand that. Einstein said, if I had 1 hour to solve a problem, I'll spend 55 minutes defining it,
yes.
5 minutes solving it. So I really try to understand what's the problem here, what is the human problem. Business problem, we understand what's the human problem that's there. So I think with any brief I get, I try to do that. And the next thing I would try to understand is, what has the category set that is not true to the human being. There's a lot of fallacy that happens in communication. We try that's one of the biggest problems with advertising, and nobody gives a shit because we are making stuff up, right? Some recently also we had a presentation where they were talking about the brand myth. They call it the brand myth. I said, and then I interjected at that point and said, we don't look at myths. We look at brand truths. Right? We try to understand the reality of what's there. And if the reality is sour, we have to look at it's sour to certain audiences, but it may be a really positive thing to another audience.
But myths can also be defined as, can also be defined as what people perceive right now that may not be true.
Fair enough.
But isn't that also important?
It's good to understand that, but why would you try to sell something to somebody or try to convince somebody of something that may be true, may not be true, when you can take something that they know to be true and try and build on that? How easier is it to do the latter than the former? And that's where strategy comes into play. So you don't have to spend millions to make them believe something that they are not sure of. Why don't you already take what they are sure of and try and build on that? So in a nutshell, that's the sort of
understanding the problem. You need to know where you are now before you know where you need to be, right? Simple as that. Okay, and I know that in the creative process, right, and especially with advertising and stuff, insights are a big thing. So it's a big thing in the strategic process, right? So, but not many of our young creatives really understand or know how to crack an insight. Right? So what is an insight? And how do you come up with these great insights for a creative brief?
That I think is a huge, like a conundrum that's there in this industry where people define insights in different ways. Some person will try and take the most popular word that everybody is using, part of pop culture, and end up saying, that's my insight. Someone will take a tagline from a piece of communication and say, that's my insight.
Sometimes
right?
You put an observation and say, that's my insight.
Exactly, right? Everyone has their different ways. The way I try to look at an insight is, how can I redefine the problem?
Redefine the problem in a creative way, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what I try to focus on.
But then, see, this is a confusion that I've also had in the past, right? Now, even if you know what the problem is, which is an observation, and if you redefine that problem in a creative way, but isn't that just a creative way of just putting an observation?
So I would say that I redefine the problem not in a creative way. I would say I'll redefine the problem from a human way. So I think it may be best described with an example, right? So if you take the consumer durable industry, right? We have singers and Soft Logic and Abans, Damros there, and then somewhere at the bottom you get Sinhagiri. We've heard of Sinhagiri, no one really goes to Sinhagiri, right? So when we ended up working with them, I think the sole reason that no one goes there is because you always look at Sinhagiri as having less TVs, less of everything, less items, right? So we did this audit also, and in Singer, if you take just a TV category, they have like 47 TVs, whereas Singer will have around 15 TVs that are there. Sinhagiri will have around 15 TVs that are there. How do you fight when you can't change that kind of environment? But then this is where the insight actually came in, that Imagine going and making a choice to buy one TV when you have 47 to choose from. How do you
How
make
do you
that
make
decision?
that
How do you
choice,
make that
right?
choice? How do you make that
It's
choice?
easier to make a choice when you have less options in front of you.
Exactly.
Right? Ah, interesting.
So people like choice. They don't want to be overloaded with it. So when you overload them with choice, that becomes a barrier to make the purchase.
And the
even.
best thing is when you come up with an insight like that, right? It triggers great ideas, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as you can see, it's about reframing the problem
Right.
from a human way.
Yeah. And you can even come up with an idea saying we have only the top 10 best items for you.
That's what we
Instead
did.
of such a big price. Was that the idea?
Yeah.
I just got it out of your
Exactly.
insight. Right. So that's great. And how is there a particular way, any tip in terms of how to come up with one?
What I have found out is that, see, I am not very rooted into the local culture. I know my strengths and my weaknesses. So where I am not rooted to local nuances, I speak to people who understand the local nuances. But what I have found, because I have other people I would talk to and get that from, I focus on behavioral economics, behavioral science. So when you look at choice overload, that's a behavioral principle. Having more, getting overloaded with more, you can't make decisions.
Should have more psychologists coming into advertising.
Actually, yes. So overseas, in UK, they have a thing called the Behavioral Insights Team, which actually looks into UK legislation, policy making, which help drive behavior of millions of customers. The entire country itself is driven by behavioral insights.
Interesting. And so before we wrap up the show, Shehan, I have one final question for you. I want you to see if you can give any particular advice for the young people out there who want to get into strategy.
Yeah. I would say the biggest change that I had in my career was actually learning from the people who've already done strategy. So I spent time and effort understanding who these people are and reading the books that they have done. Nothing is like reading the work that they've done, the
You don't want
problems
to write a
they've
book?
had. I actually have a plan to do that very
good.
soon.
Good. That's
Very
good.
soon.
We don't have many local people doing that.
So I think that is the most important thing. That on-the-job learning, thinking that you can do day-to-day work and improve strategy, that's a fallacy.
Right.
It's like really getting inspired by what happens overseas, reading books on strategy done by strategists who've been involved in actual briefs and done work. That's where you learn.
Right. So thank you very much, Shehan.
You're
I think
most
there's a
welcome.
lot of interesting things I think you can take out from some of the things that you've said, and I'm sure I'm sure and I hope the viewers would also agree. So if you did enjoy this episode and you want to, watch more episodes that are coming up with more people in the advertising industry in different areas, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button now and stay tuned. You can also follow our socials of the socials of the 4As. We are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, Twitter, so on and so forth. And if you want more information, you can also log into 4as.lk. I also want to quickly thank our sponsors. Once again, Nations Trust Bank, thank you very much for helping the advertising industry with this series, with this episode rather. And also our production partner, Hype Media Network, our creative partner, Loops Integrated, as well as our location partner, where we're shooting here today, Triad. So that's it from us, and I will see you, hopefully, with the next episode.